title of the presentation is Business Critical Cloud Networking, and what I'm going to do is talk a little bit about the Aviatrix solution and how it supports these business critical applications like SAP, but also things like Epic or NetSuite and others in terms of moving to the cloud and having that network infrastructure that supports that in the cloud. And I'd like to introduce Aviatrix for those people who don't know us kind of through our customers. So this gives you an idea of the kind of customers that we're working with. We have about 550 enterprise customers. This is a few of them, give you an idea. We're in pretty much every vertical out there. Probably 60% of these customers are using us in a multi-cloud environment. The other 40% are starting in a single cloud environment with us, but have plans to move to multi-cloud over time, so they want that architecture. Gartner says shortlist Aviatrix if you're looking for the advanced features that are missing from the cloud providers themselves. And you can see over 2022, we've won a lot of accolades in the press and so forth, and that's continuing. Now, to give you an idea of kind of where we fit, really at every layer of the stack, the cloud stack, people are looking for more advanced capabilities at each layer of the stack and wanting a multi-cloud operating model. So for instance, for workload management, you might be using Datadog. For data and analytics, you might be using Snowflake. For automation software, you might be using HashiCorp and Terraform. And where we fit, we are that advanced feature set for networking and security and the multi-cloud operating model that goes with it. So what we call that is intelligent cloud networking. So I'll give you some details about what that's all about. But starting it with, what is it exactly? So in the cloud, you know, in each one of the different clouds, the way you do networking is different because the underlying constructs are different in each one of the clouds. So what we do is we upgrade the native constructs with more advanced capabilities and make it so that it's the same across all of the different clouds. So now you can have a multi-cloud environment that has consistent networking. So the way you build out the networking is the same in each one of the clouds. That gives you consistent visibility and troubleshooting capability across all of the clouds. And we have embedded security that I'll talk a little bit about, but basically moving a lot of the security that used to be on the edge of the network now into the network itself, so that you can actually do, for instance, layer 4 firewalling in the network as opposed to just on the edges of the network. And then finally, consistent multi-cloud automation. So we have a Terraform provider that works across all of the clouds. So you can write one infrastructure as code module to spin up your network environment, and it will be the same and use it the same across all of the clouds. Now, why are people doing this? It's for that business critical infrastructure that they need. We're finding that more and more companies are moving business critical applications like SAP into the cloud, and they need the underlying visibility and troubleshooting capability that's missing from the native cloud constructs. And so, for instance, if you have AWS Transit Gateway, you find that you don't have the visibility that you need, and we give you a lot of that I'll show you as we go through here. So what makes us unique? It's really our platform, and our platform has two parts of it. So there's what we call Aviatrix Airspace, which is actually the network data plane. And this is where we embed telemetry and control capability. And I'll talk a little bit more about that, what I mean by that. And then the other part of it is what we call Aviatrix CoPilot. And that is the visibility platform that takes advantage of that telemetry and also has the programmable intent so that you can program those controls within the multi-cloud network in a way that allows you to do things like distributed firewalling. So let's look at a couple of the pictures to give you an idea of what this looks like. So programmable intent essentially is the ability to create what seems like a firewall rule, but you're not pushing it to a firewall. You're pushing it into the network, and then the enforcement gets applied close to the instance or the VM that you're trying to protect. And if that instance moves, those rules are going to move with it. So that's why we call it intent. You're saying, I want to protect this. And in this example, I'm doing something like saying, okay, the front-end servers should be able to talk to the app servers, and the app servers should talk to the database servers, but the front-end servers shouldn't talk to the database servers directly. So now I push that into the network, and I filter the traffic in a way that instantiates those rules. Now this gives you an idea of some of the things that we can do here because we see everything. Now this isn't actually the customer, but I'll give you a customer story about this. All those red dots that you see on there are malicious IPs that are talking to workloads in the cloud. And we had a customer who had all these red dots just like this and said, what's going on? None of our current security stack sees any of this. And the reason that it didn't see it was because those are all single point of inspection, right? So if the traffic flow is not going through the inspection point, you don't see it. And in data center architecture, you had a place that everything flowed through. But in cloud, it can come in and go out from anywhere. So what we do, because we are the data plane that everything has to go across, we can compare the source and destination address to a database of malicious IPs. We don't make that database. It's made by Proofpoint, which is the same thing that GuardDuty uses. But now we can see anytime something starts a communication with a malicious IP. In the case of the customer I was talking about, they found Bitcoin mining and Tor servers and botnets that were doing DDoS attacks out of their cloud, and none of their security stacks saw that. We can give dynamic topology maps that show you exactly how everything is connected throughout the network. You can drill down on these and do packet capture and ping and trace route, all the things that network guys are interested in doing to troubleshoot this business critical infrastructure. We can see every flow on the network, so we can search and sort on source, destination, port, protocol, drill all the way down into TCP flags to troubleshoot application issues and so forth. And we make it very easy to do this, so you're not exporting VPC flow logs and creating S3 buckets for them and doing log analysis and all that. It's just right here in CoPilot. And then we can also look at all those flows as a heat map, and the security guys love this because they can look and say, oh, I see why we're talking to South America, but what's going on there in northern China that I should be looking at? And normally this is just scanning for open ports, but if there's a communication established, I want to be able to drill in and see that. We give all kinds of audit reporting capabilities. We work with the compliance teams that need all of this information to put the audit reports together on what has access to what and what lists are you able, what URLs are you allowed to talk to in the internet and so forth. We provide all that data for those guys. And then troubleshooting, I'm going to show you a little 45-second video, but this is what we call App IQ. So App IQ, you're putting a source address and a destination address basically on an application connectivity and what's going on through there. And then what we do, run the report, takes about 20 seconds. We can see that source and that destination, see the entire equal cost, multi-path path that it might go through, all the latencies, all of the details about each one of the instances in the path, and if it has any memory issues that's a problem with those. We start then looking at things like route tables and security groups and different parts of the route tables and so forth, all the way down to, in this case, you see the fail on the security groups. Now, the interesting thing about this is that report takes 20 seconds to run, but all of the information that's in that report would take about a dozen windows in the AWS console to bring up and then do a lot of human correlation to figure out that it was a security group, there's not a security group there, and to be able to click on here and go exactly where I need to fix that security group. So very quick in terms of troubleshooting problems that you might run into. And then most recently, we've been hearing from our customers about the need to look at cost analysis. And so we shipped what we call Cost IQ. And what this does, everybody has their bill and can analyze exactly what this account has in terms of instances and so forth and how much should be charged to that particular account in engineering. What they haven't had the ability to do is look at shared resources and understand how those shared resources are actually being used. So with Cost IQ, we're allowing people to define exactly their cost centers as well as their shared resources, and then look at actual network traffic that's going from cost centers to shared resources so that you can accurately allocate those costs either for chargeback or for showback. Now, from an SAP standpoint, what we're starting to do now is focus, put a lens, an SAP lens on top of all this stuff that I showed you. So for instance, that App IQ that I showed you, now this is saying, okay, these are only SAP ports, so specific applications in SAP, and I can actually look at all of that information, get that end-to-end connectivity that I showed you in App IQ, but now this has got a SAP lens on it, so I'm looking specifically at that. And then taking it one step further, we're building dashboards that allow you to then take topology, for instance, and show your SAP application the topology of it, whether that's multi-cloud or even all the way out beyond the SAP application if you have other applications talking to it. And then you see kind of at the bottom there the ability to look at the latencies, because a lot of times you get those problems that the basis engineer gets, hey, it's slow today. Well, what does that mean? Is it a latency thing? Is it an application thing? And this allows you to drill in, look at trends and see, is it trending up? Is this going to be a problem? These are the kinds of things this dashboard will allow you to do. So that's the end of my presentation. Happy to take a couple of questions, I think about 3 minutes. Otherwise, I invite you to come by the booth number 2020, and we've got our solution architects there that can answer any detailed questions that you might have.